at the very powerful mafia that operates in that part of southern Italy, the heel of Italy, an area known as Puglia, and the organised crime network is known in English as the Sacred Crown. The mayor saying that he believed that it had carried out an unprecedented attack. Now, the school is named after the wife of a very famous anti-mafia judge, Judge Falcone, who was killed almost exactly 20 years ago. We heard reports that there may have been an anti-mafia march planned in the town for today. The mayor saying there are just too many coincidences in his view. But as I say, no claim of responsibility as yet.
Alan, thank you. Alan Johnson there with the latest there from Rome. Now back here, and of course it's been the big event of the day, the Olympic torch relay. It's now underway, making the latest stage in the countdown to the London Games. The Olympic flame arrived in Cornwall from Athens yesterday evening, and it's set off from Land's End earlier. Jane Hill is in Falmouth, where the torch is due to arrive shortly. Jane, over to you.
Hello, a very good morning, Maxine, where things are running just a little late here on Falmouth Harbour, although I suppose we have to see it as a good thing. Apparently, I'm told the reason the torch is a little late arriving here is simply the sheer size of crowds en route. People may have been following this morning. They'll know it left Land's End, and there's been a really impressive turnout in many, many areas. The choir, the local school's choir, just striking up. You might be able to hear them. Another quick rehearsal. It was due here in about the next 5 minutes. I think it's going to be more like 11:35-ish. That's what we're told. But you may get a sense, many, many, many hundreds of people out here on Falmouth quayside. Could not be a more glorious day. The gigs are out, the Cornish gigs, the boats are out, ready to welcome the torch here. It is just day one, of course, since Ben Ainsley took that torch very early this morning at Land's End. Let's just remind ourselves of a little bit of the route and what has been happening today and what will be happening in the next few days. This report, first of all, from Tim Reed.
An unusual mission for a Royal Navy rescue helicopter at the start of a scenic journey for the Olympic flame, carried with care from its overnight home at Caldrose in Cornwall to Land's End. There, the flame was transferred to the first bearer of the torch relay, the 3-times gold medal-winning sailor Ben Ainsley, who carried it slowly through the crowd, letting bystanders get their first glimpse and touch of the Olympic torch.
It was just actually pretty emotional, to be honest. I mean, there's so much effort's gone into getting this the Olympics here in London from so many people, and it means so much. So very, very proud for everyone involved.
Ainsley is one of 8,000 torchbearers who, over the next 70 days, will take the flame around Britain in the build-up to the London Games. This, the first of many handovers, dubbed the Kiss, to Cornish surfer Tassie Swallow, a proud moment for her.
And I was really, really nervous. It really helped having my mum, my dad, my little brother and sister, my boyfriend, his family, and the crowd, the support of the crowd was crazy.
The torch's security team in the grey uniforms provide protection for the flame at all times. They had to bundle one man, running just behind the torchbearer, into a hedge after he got just a little too close. Earlier, as the flame was airlifted to Britain's southwesterly tip, those responsible, service personnel who are more used to saving lives, felt a sense of responsibility for its safe arrival.
Probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life. It was unbelievable, absolutely speechless. An experience I'll never forget, I'm sure.
The relay is now well and truly underway. The torch will be carried through more than 1,000 towns and villages across the UK. Its route is designed to allow 95% of the population to see it. Up to 9 million people are expected to do so before the Olympic Games commence in July. Tim Reed, BBC News.
Well, here in Falmouth, I've just spotted the first Sea King helicopter in the sky. We are expecting a Sea King display and fly past here just to begin in the next few minutes. So that's about to get underway. I think you might see lots of members of some of the Finn competitors here in the white shirts waiting behind me. You might know that in Falmouth it's been the big Finn competition, the championships. Ben Ainsley, the local boy, won that yesterday. Another accolade for him before he then went down to Land's End to become the first torchbearer. Beautiful scene here out on the harbour. All the Cornish gig boats are out. I think there are 14 of them out. Still absolutely beautiful. The sun has been shining for many hours here. Let's hope it persists for the next 20 minutes, because the torch should be here in around about 20 minutes or so. So do come back to us then. We'll have a little more, and I hope to hear from Ben Ainsley himself as well, and many of the other competitors who've been taking part in the Finn Festival here this week, the Finn Championship. Much more from Falmouth to come, and a reminder, of course, that you can keep up to date with the torch, find out just how close it's coming to your house, all on the BBC News website, bbc.co.uk/2012. Much more information, and you can follow the torch throughout, can you believe, for the next 70 days. More from Falmouth in the next little while. Back to you, Maxine.
Jane, thank you very much. Loads of people there. The headlines again this morning, and that's our main story. Let's go back to the Olympic torch relay, well underway in Falmouth now. My colleague Jane Hill is there for us. There you are, Jane. So
Hello
it's
again.
getting close.
Yes.
It's approaching.
Yes, that'll teach me to start giving timings, won't it, Maxine? Because they assured us the crowds were such a little way down the track that it was going to be rather late. We've just been told somehow they've made up time, and apparently it could be here really quite soon. There we are. That's a live event for you. Either way, every time I turn to my left, which is the direction from which the torch will be arriving very soon, we think now, I can see that the crowds have swelled and swelled. Perhaps the weather helps. It is absolutely lovely, beautiful, brilliant sunshine we've had all day here at Falmouth Harbour, but there are many, 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 many hundreds of people, and people have been gathering since quite early this morning. The Union Jacks are out, the Union flags are out. Lots and lots of families. We've got a big school choir performing here. You might have seen us talking to some of the young members of that choir earlier on breakfast this morning. 100 strong school choir from various schools around the local area. They've performing a couple of specially written songs, and there is a real sense of excitement here. We will be talking to quite a variety of people who have gathered, you might get that sense, to greet the torch here, Maxine. Behind me, if you can spot some of the people in white t-shirts and white sweatshirts, they're the Finn competitors, a lot of the people who've been taking part in the big Finn competition that's been here in Falmouth this week. You probably know Ben Ainsley, as if he wasn't a local hero already. He won that competition, that championship last night, and of course he has kick-started this torch relay. He was down in Land's End very, very early this morning to kick the torch relay off. I keep looking to my left because it's due to come down the hill very soon, and I'm just trying to keep a weather eye to see whether we get a sense of when that torch is on its way. While we wait for the torch, let's talk to two people who were taking part in that big championship that I mentioned, the Finn competition, because it was an Olympic qualifying event, the one that Ben Ainsley won yesterday. I'm joined by Peter Kula from Poland and Greg Douglas from Canada. Congratulations, guys, because you both qualified yesterday. First of all, how excited are you? What sense are you getting? We're getting close to the Olympics now.
You know, it takes the time to qualify the country, which we did this time in this event, but also the national trials. It was 3 events, so 2 months. We had the time. I had the time to get used to the thing, the thought that I may be the Olympian. So yesterday it happened. I came 6th overall in Falmouth Finn Festival, Gold Cup. So just a great feeling.
So that's it. You're in the team.
Yes.
Does that mean you are excited or nervous or a bit of both?
I'm definitely excited. I'm not nervous because there's still 2 more months of really hard work in front of me and in front of our team. My coach is here around. Many thanks to Andrzej Piasecki, the coach of our team. So excited for sure, not nervous, but a great feeling.
And you're competing for Canada. How are you feeling?
I'm good. It didn't really set in until I was on my way down here. I saw all the people lining the streets. I'm like, I'm going to the Olympics. Wow. So it's like Peeler. I'm feeling nervous, feeling excited, and 2 months of hard work ready to keep hammering and get back here for London.
And forgive me, is this your first Olympics or have you competed before?
That's actually my second Olympics. I competed in Beijing in a different class of both, though. So it's my second Olympics, but first one competing in the Finn class.
And what take do you have on the huge turnout here in Falmouth? I mean, is this what you expect as an international athlete? Do you anticipate this sort of thing, or do you have what sense do you have of Cornwall?
Well, Cornwall is amazing though. We've had the best time here, and I expected somewhat it to be pretty busy, but it's packed. You know, we were driving in the streets, everyone's out. It was really good, and luckily, you know, you guys have an amazing day here today, so I'm having a blast. Having a blast.
Excellent. I'm glad you are. I think lots of other people are as well. Greg
yeah.
and Peter, thank you very much. Congratulations again. We may be able to talk to you quite a bit over the next half an hour, but thanks very much for being here on the BBC for now. We're just going to go to a different camera angle because I think we have pictures of the torch approaching. These are pictures that you can see and I can't, but I'm hoping that it is going to be testament to the sort of atmosphere that Greg from the Canadian team was just describing to us, because he's clearly struck by the number of people who are turning out here still and have turned out here in Falmouth and on the route generally. If you are just joining us, just to remind you that we are here in Falmouth. Slight hesitation there on my part with timings because we've been told there was a big delay, then we were told they'd made up time, so I keep looking around to see
Jane, I think what you can't see, but perhaps we can see, is the fact that the wind is causing a bit of a torch issue. So they've constructed what seems like a rather clever windshield around it using bodies and pieces of plastic, because I think this kissing of the torches, as it's called, where the one torch lights from another, is proving a little problematic in today's weather conditions, but I'm sure they'll get there. They're doing everything possible here with a little huddle of people with their arms around each other.
Well, there we are. It is day one, isn't it, Maxine? That's what we have to keep remembering. So all of this is a test. It's an enormous logistical operation, of course, a 70-day torch relay. And I guess you would expect that there would always be teething problems. Perhaps LOCOG would hope not, but I think it's perhaps almost inevitable. And what a nice problem to have for LOCOG, because let's remember that how many people have we spoken to in the build-up in the last few days who have said, you know, this torch relay, this really is important. We know, don't we, that a large proportion of Olympic tickets for the Olympic Park have been sold, like it or not, to people who live in London and the southeast of England. And this is about getting the message out, flying the Olympic flag, if you like, and telling people that the Olympics is for them no matter which part of the UK they live in. This is a key element of the torch relay. Well, I think we can see torchbearer number 49, who is now with the torch. Let's just remember, every torch, everyone who carries the torch runs or walks with it, depending on their inclination, for about 300 metres. That means already 49 torchbearers have held this today, starting with Ben Ainsley. We are now on torchbearer number 49. There are 8,000 torchbearers over the next 70-day period. It's an awful lot, but let's remember as well that more than 30,000 people were either nominated or requested to be a torch bearer, and there was quite a strong selection process. You had to be considered to have done a lot in your local area, to have contributed in some way, to have some passion or connection with sport, and that is the reason you were chosen as a torch bearer. So that figure of more than 30,000 has already been whittled down to the 8,000. So it is quite an honour. There's a smattering of celebrities in that list and a smattering of professional sportsmen and women. But broadly, LOCOG always keen to remind us that this is about just honouring and saying thank you to local people, people who've made a difference in their local area in some way. And even yesterday when I was down at RNAS Culdrose, where the flame came in, of course, I spoke to so many torchbearers yesterday, and I was struck by how many of them said, do you know what, one of the things I'm most proud about and most excited about is the fact that I will be carrying that torch, carrying the flame, just a matter of meters in some cases, certainly only a couple of miles from where I grew up, from my home area, and they were really proud and excited about that fact. So everyone has a different reason for wanting to carry it. But there was a pride, I think. Pride was a word I heard an awful lot yesterday, and that's the word we're going to keep hearing, I think, for the next 70 days as this torch relay progresses. The local choir has struck up again in preparation, and they will be singing again as the torch comes down here, down the hill to this beautiful, picturesque Falmouth harbour.
And Jane, I think it's very close to you now. We're just seeing the lighting again. The crowds are getting ready. The torch is about to move off once more. So I think they must be very, very close to you now. We're down to runner number 50.
Number 50, excellent. I'm glad you're able to keep me up to date, Maxine. You can imagine it's a huge operation. And I think, yes, they probably are just off to my left somewhere. While we wait for it to make its way down the hill, let's talk to Jonathan Griffin, who is from the Falmouth Maritime Museum, a very important institution in this town. Hello, Jonathan, to you. And Sandra Critchley, who is head of Falmouth School, and a huge involvement for so many school children here today, Sandra. I guess a lot of your pupils very excited.
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous. What a wonderful opportunity for them to be able to sing and to be out here and to be taking part in this monumental event. Absolutely fantastic.
And I've said this so many times, I feel, in the last few days, but we do know that one of the key pitches of London 2012, one of the reasons that London won the bid, is because the organisers absolutely wanted young people to be involved, and they wanted young people to be inspired by the message of sport. And I know that's something that you and other schools in the area have been trying to grasp. But
absolutely. I mean, sport is really, really big in Cornwall. It's absolutely fantastic. We've got our own Cornwall School Games soon for the school children, and that's for schools across Cornwall. We also, in our own school, have our own Going for Gold Week, where we celebrate all the Olympic values, and our sports day is linked into that. But I think something exciting is happening now.
They're just there. The runner's just coming through.
Someone just shouted at me, "It's behind you," which tells me everything I need to know. Let's just pause, if we can, step back a little and watch as the torch is brought down the hill, and here it comes into picturesque Falmouth Harbour.
That's the one exchanges, that's not on fire yet. That's the one that this one is claimed to.
So the torch is here, a little kiss, good luck. And this young lady, runner number 55, torch bearer number 55, I should say, just waiting for a flame. She's got a torch, she's waiting for a flame.
Look over here, please.
And can you tell us your name and where you're from? You're live on the BBC.
Claire Spargo-Williams, and I'm from Truro.
You're from Claire from Truro. Claire from Truro, and why are you a torchbearer? Why were you selected?
I'm a torchbearer on behalf of BT, and I was selected by my colleagues. And hi to everyone at BT and Penkelenic School. Doing this for you guys.
And are you excited or nervous?
I'm both, honestly, terrified but extremely excited.
And I know torchbearers are allowed to, or encouraged maybe even, to buy a torch to keep for themselves. Are you going to be having one at home?
Yeah, definitely. Pride of place, pride of place.
Yes, what will you do with it?
Oh, just show it to everyone I possibly can.
And have you had lots of support, lots of friends and family here today?
Yeah, they're all here, yeah. I think they're waiting for me at the end, so.
And as a Cornwall local, what does it mean to you that the torch relay, it's all started here, it's all about Cornwall today?
Brilliant, and what more of a beautiful place. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Well, Claire, many congratulations. And I will let you get back into position because I think
Gavin's on his way.
there was a bit of a delay, wasn't there? But they've made up time. What do you think of the crowds? Because a huge number of people have turned out.
I'm just awestruck, honestly. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day.
Well, we hope you have a fantastic day, and there's lots of parties and celebrations in Falmouth for the rest of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be in the sea later, hopefully. So.
Are you a surfer, does that mean?
Well, yeah, with the water sports, yeah, I'll definitely be trying everything I can. So, yeah, brilliant.
Claire, thank you very much. Claire, the 55th torchbearer. 55th out of 8,000, of course, because there are 8,000 torchbearers crisscrossing the UK for the next 70 days. The Sea King helicopter up in the sky, there was a display. They've been out in force for the last half an hour or so. I wish I could give you an exact figure. So many hundreds of people out here in Falmouth today. Jonathan Griffin from the Maritime Museum, we We were talking a little earlier. I mean, as Claire, the torchbearer, was saying, what a fabulous turnout.
It is wonderful, isn't it? And the weather in Cornwall absolutely at its best on a day like this in Falmouth. It's so good to have it here. But we've been off fete for 3 weeks now with the Finn Festival, so this is just another event for us here in Falmouth. But it's great fun.
You're well used to it.
We are.
Well, you've had the Finn Festival has been dominated all the news for the last week.
And now sailors, and Ben just winning. I mean, he just sort of went straight through and won everything.
He is the local hero, isn't he?
He is, yes, but he's a national hero. And it's the atmosphere here in Falmouth is just wonderful as a result.
And obviously some people are still cynical about the Olympics. They question it, they question the cost. Of course, you hear someone like Claire there, clearly a lot younger than me, I don't know her exact age, but a lot of young people carrying the torch, and you just got a real sense from her that she was real butterflies in the stomach and terribly excited.
Well, I disagreed with what you just said. You said there was a smattering of celebrities. I think there's 8,000 celebrities here carrying the torch, and it's people like Claire that are just making people get engaged with the Olympics and get excited about it. And I mean, for us, having Ben winning on our waters was the start, and we're just going to be rooting for him to go for gold in Weymouth as well. And that's really touching. Gets you in the pit of the stomach, whatever your age.
Yes, his sailing events, of course, taking place in Weymouth. And when we look at the turnout here today, one assumes that the turnout to actually watch that sport and to support someone local will be enormous.
Oh, it will be completely, yes, completely. But I mean, there are other Cornish participants, and we worry about that in Cornwall. We've enormous pride, as you've probably gathered here in the county, about our sports people, and we're going to be rooting for them all the way to the final.
And you run the Maritime Museum, of course. What does it mean to you? I mean,
don't talk about running. I'm not going to run. Yes, it does. Well, we've got an exhibition on at the moment about Olympic sailing. We've got a couple of Olympic boats there. We've got Bain's first gold medal boat. His laser lives there. Rita, his current Finn, usually lives in the Maritime Museum when he's not using her. We've got Superdocious, who won in 1980. So we're trying to get engaged and get people involved in sport and to understand the legacy of sailing in the Olympics. And that's what we're doing in the Maritime Museum, as our contribution.
And how easy is it as a sport, and a big generalisation, but how easy is it for young people to get involved in sailing, though? Because one has that sense that perhaps it's quite an expensive sport to get into, and that can be a barrier.
Well, locally, people just get engaged on the water. It's here. Just over there is the Water Sports Centre. Young people are there all the time. Sandra's school is doing wonderful things for sport. And on the water is dead easy. And go on. I can sense there's something over my shoulder.
Someone, actually.
Oh, great.
Ben Ainsley.
Someone slightly bigger and better.
Been talking about. No, I wasn't cutting you off at all. I caught sight of him out of the corner of my eye.
I bow to him. We all do. But young people on the water is no problem at all. And people like Ben have learnt on these waters, and Tom Fitz, who we hope one day will be another Olympian from the same waters as Ben grew up on. They can get engaged, they do get engaged. It's not a rich person's sport at all. It's our sport, anything on the water.
And again, I said it earlier on today, but I've already lost count of the number of times I've heard people use the word pride or proud. They're proud. And so many people that I've spoken to in Cornwall just so delighted that this is where it's all starting. It's a real boost, sort of emotionally, if you like, but also people are very practical. They say, you know what, Cornwall needs the money, it needs the tourism, and that's a bonus too.
Yes, it is. But, I mean, if we be historical, Cornwall has always been, I mean, because of where we are, we've been the first place to get news. We've been the contact with the outside world. So it could not be more right for the torch to start at Land's End, because Cornwall is where the first news of the world ever came. And that's what we're doing. And so, in a sense, it's our birthright to be the first, and that's the pride we've got.
And let's talk as well
Here's the man himself, come on.
The man himself, Ben Ainsley. Hello again. Thanks for being with us again on the BBC.
No problem.
We were speaking yesterday down at Culdrose. I watched you as you set off from Land's End this morning. I have to ask you, it's a cliche, but I have to ask you how that felt.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You know, the atmosphere down there was electric, and as it is here now. So it's great to see the torch on its way, and so many people coming out to see it, and you know, we're going to see more of that over the next couple of months in the build up to the Olympics, and really get that atmosphere going.
Yes, I mean, quite striking how many people came out to Land's End where you were, simply because of the time of day. People prepared to get up jolly early.
Yeah, the crack of dawn, so it was amazing, and really we're so lucky with the weather as well today. It's been fantastic and just amazing to see so many people out.
And give me a sense of what it's been like. You've travelled then already, obviously, from Land's End down here to Falmouth. You've seen scenes that I have not been able to witness because I've been down here on the harbour. Tell me about turnout and what people have been saying to you. And
I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I've never seen anything like it. Every village we've driven through, there's been people out on the road. Really excited and just trying to come through Falmouth.
Yes, you had a struggle, I can tell.
Pretty big town, you know, and as everyone's out, so it's fantastic.
And I was really struck as well watching the pictures of you running with the torch or jogging. So many people really reached out. They were trying to touch the torch. In the end, you let people touch it. They were taking photographs of it. I was quite struck by people actually wanting to touch us as if it was slightly mystical powers in some way.
Yeah, I think so. It's a little about, you know, it's that sort of Lord of the Rings thing, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's great. You know, the more people can get out, feel as though they're part of this Olympics. That's, you know, going to be amazing over the next couple of months as that builds up and the torch gets around the country.
And what a cracking week for you. Everybody I've been speaking to here down on the harbour this morning, reflecting on your success again yesterday, and how are you feeling? How are your preparations going now in the run-up to the big moment once we get to July the 27th?
Well, you know, I've pretty quickly got to come down to reality and get on with training. I mean, today's just been an amazing experience for everybody. But you know, it's back to work tomorrow, back to training and trying to get the preparations right. And of course, you've got to perform on the day. So a long way to go yet.
Yes. Is it too early to say you feel confident?
I'd say I'm quietly confident. But you know, as I said, we've got a lot to do, a lot of work to do, and you know, the Olympic Games is always extremely tough in any competition. So. Yeah, we've got to go out and get it right on the day. But you know, today's like today. If you ever needed any inspiration to get out there and train, this is it.
And I have to just ask you. I'm sure everyone does, but the fact that this is the Olympics on home turf, what difference does that make to a professional athlete? Is it a pressure that is welcome, or is it an added pressure that is somewhat stressful at times?
Well, for sure there are extra pressures, but you know, most competitors the most pressure comes from within. It's your internal desires to be successful, and actually, you know, seeing this kind of atmosphere just drives you on to want to try and do everyone proud and do a good job for everyone at home at the Olympics.
Well, I've certainly had the sense that absolutely everyone is rooting for you here today. So very many thanks, Ben Ainsley. Thank you. A man in demand today, but very good to have you with us again on the BBC. Thanks so much. And Ben, again, as we say, weren't those fantastic pictures from Land's End this morning as he left very, very early doors, but many, many hundreds of people out despite the early hours, and it's setting off in beautiful sunshine, and it really has been a spectacular start to this 70-day torch relay. Just trying to get a sense of where we are. If I pause momentarily, I know you'll be able to see things from the various BBC cameras that I'm not privy to. Again, a huge sense of anticipation. The Finn team, all those who've been competing in the Finn Championships that Ben won yesterday, of course, still gathered here waiting for that big moment. We've been reflecting on the role of young people here, huge local passion in Cornwall. I think you've probably already picked up on that. Let's just bring in again Sandra Pitchley, who's the local head teacher here at Falmouth School. And Sandra, we started talking about so much work that your young people and in other schools have been doing, both in sporting terms but also wider, trying to bask in the Olympic spirit and to remember what it means.
Absolutely. There's been so much going on in Cornwall. I mean, for example, primary schools across Cornwall have a Cornwall-made torch that's been circulating across the primary schools and is going round the county and incorporating the secondary schools as it travels round, and is bringing a spirit of the Olympics to every school as it goes on its way. And I know they've been making banners to go out on the streets and doing all sorts of project work in the schools across Cornwall to to support the Olympic values and to help children understand just what a fantastic event this is for us all in the UK this year. In our own school, since we heard that the Olympics were coming to Cornwall, coming not to Cornwall, they're coming to Cornwall today, aren't they? But when they're coming to London in 2012, we introduced a Going for Gold week, which is a week where we get involved in all sorts of artwork and international work, as well as our sport, and then we celebrate all those Olympic values with all of the young people. We've been looking, the choir have been practicing. We've been that's brought brought a lot of spirit to all of the schools as that work has been happening, and it really is just a very, very exciting day today, I think, for the whole of Cornwall. The sun is shining. Couldn't be better, could it? The harbour is looking absolutely fantastic, and it's just a lovely, lovely day. It is our moment to shine here in Cornwall, and we're just so proud that we're right at the beginning of this Olympic torch as it travels across the country. I feel so proud. It came into Helston yesterday, into Culdrose. It's been at Land's End today, and we're having a fabulous day here in Falmouth, and it's just absolutely brilliant for everyone involved. And it makes us all feel part of the Olympics.
Well, that's someone from LOCOG listening to you would be absolutely delighted, because they would say that's absolutely what this is all about. In making someone who perhaps for whatever reason can't actually get to the Olympic Park in July and August feel that it's still a little bit for them. It's still something for the entire country, not just for London and the South East. I mean, do you get that sense in Cornwall that even if you can't afford to go perhaps to the Games, there's something in it for you?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, seeing that plane land yesterday with the beautiful gold livery and land in Culdrose, it just sent a tingle, I think, through everybody living in Cornwall to think that here we were right at the very start. And then taking it out to the other extreme, when we have our own, as I mentioned before, our own Cornwall School Olympics that are happening at the end of June. We took part in that last year as well, and that was a really celebratory event. And that is an event where all young people across Cornwall, all the leading sports people, culminate in a celebration of sport, and it's fantastic. So repeated again this year, really looking forward to that, and you know, it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So yes, we do feel very much involved, and I think we're privileged to be right at the start.
Sandra, that's fantastic to talk to you. Thanks so much. And I know lots of your pupils are involved with the choir as well that's singing at the moment.
That's right, the choir. You can perhaps just hear them in the background. A song specially written for this event, and it's written by a local person, and it's about celebrating the spirit of our town and our community, which I think is fantastic. So shout it out. You can hear it there in the background.
We will listen in and we will wait for the flame. Thank you very much indeed, Sandra. Lovely to talk to you. Let's hear a little of that song that Sandra Critchley was mentioning, sung by a 100-strong young people from various local schools. We were speaking to a few of them on breakfast earlier this morning. They all sounded very excited. One little boy, only 10 years old, said he was so looking forward to seeing the flame coming through his town. Claire, who we were talking to a little earlier, still waiting very patiently. Once we get to this point in the proceedings, it's very hard to get any sense of timings at all. Maybe we can get some sense, in fact, from my colleague John Kay, who is, of course, following the flame. John, I can't see you, but you might be able to explain to me where you are.
Jane, if it makes any sense, we're just going past the King's Head. I'm sure that makes sense to you. It's a pub just on the high street in Falmouth. The trouble is the crowds have been immense. The organisers of the torch relay have been overwhelmed by the tens and tens of thousands of people who've turned out, not just here in Falmouth now, but across Cornwall from Land's End since early this morning. It's meant getting through some of those country lanes has been almost impossible at times, the way blocked by the crowds. You can see we're making progress now. The gentleman you can see is Gavin Cattle. He is indeed a local hero here in Cornwall, 32-year-old. He's the captain of the Cornish Pirates, the only professional rugby team here in this county of Cornwall. He was nominated by his teammates and also by members of the local community. He does a lot of work here, not just playing rugby, but working with young people, promoting sport in schools and youth clubs, and working with local charities across Cornwall. And that's why he's getting a massive reaction. But you know what? He's number 54. I've seen 53 others. And well, you'd expect it for Ben Ainsley first thing in Land's End. But all of them have had this astonishing reaction. Smiles, pats on the back, high fives, people wanting their pictures taken. It's just been an overwhelming sense really here in Cornwall. Nobody was really sure how this was going to turn out. Nobody knew how many people would turn out onto the streets, especially first thing on a Saturday morning at a remote spot like Land's End. But when I got there at 4:30 this morning, there were crowds of people, some of them pushing wheelchairs to get a space and to get a position there. And so it has gone on all day long. People across this county wanting to be part of day one of the torch relay. Gavin Cattle is now making his way from the High Street down towards Custom House Quay, and you will see him, I'd say, in about a minute and a half's time as he approaches the seafront. And it's going to be some effort, I think, getting people out of Falmouth afterwards. There are so many people, not just local town people, but holiday makers. This is a well-known, popular tourist destination, and it's attracted many of those tourists on a beautiful, sunny day today. And the Cornish tourist authorities will be absolutely delighted with this. A year ago, when it was announced that it was going to start in Land's End, it was pouring with rain, high winds, and I think people thought, my goodness, is this really the message we want to send around the world about what the southwest of England is like? But in fact, this is the picture that is going to be beaten around the world today. And for people across the county of Cornwall and into Devon later in the day, it's a proud moment.
And John, just to interrupt you, John, here is the kiss, as they call it, the transfer from one torch to the next. From the 54th torchbearer to Claire, who we were talking to earlier, the 55th. Cheers, clapping. Lots of applause as we saw the torchbearer running down the hill. Almost a gasp from so many of the people standing around me, gathered here in the sunshine on Falmouth quayside. Really genuinely excited. And huge cheers as Claire makes her way back up, retraces the steps back up the hill to wind its way through the rest of Falmouth. And the London organisers must be delighted with scenes like this. The brilliant sunshine, the beautiful setting, huge turnouts, so many people out throughout the streets of Falmouth, the Union flag flying through the streets. And it's gone up the hill as it will then continue its journey. It's not a linear pattern, of course. How could you cross so much of the country in that way? But it will now be zigzagging, going out throughout other parts of Cornwall. Of course, ultimately today it ends its relay today in Plymouth. It's moving through into Devon. We will be trying to catch up at some stage around lunchtime, and we'll be heading off to Plymouth, and we will be finding it there on Plymouth Hoe much later today. From mid-afternoon we will be there as it ends the day in Plymouth. And one of the key things, another of the key things that the organisers wanted is not just following the progress of the torch, of course, but having free festivities wherever the torch goes. So at the end of each day they want free festivities for the local people. So there's lots planned tonight in Plymouth where it ends up. But I should say, I'm quite struck. I've been seeing the rundown of what's going on here in Falmouth, and there is a huge amount planned for families. It's all for free throughout the town over the course of the day, and the local authorities here in Falmouth wanting just a big party, I think, here for the rest of the day, very much so, and lots of people here to take part in that. Let's just get some closing thoughts from Richard Gates, who is the organiser here in Falmouth. Hello, Richard. Well, hello. Goodness, you must be a happy man if you're the organiser, because that was, timings aside, that was a triumph.
Very much so. Really, really pleased. It's been a phenomenal amount of planning and everything to really make the day, you know, obviously for the torch itself, but everything that's happening throughout the day. And the atmosphere, sun's come out, which is brilliant. So superb, superb. Really, really pleased with it. And
when we had the kiss, the transfer there from one torch to the next, I mean, I'm surrounded by people. I was in quite a scrum, actually. And there was a real gasp almost. People, a real air of excitement, almost an intake of breath that I could hear. It's quite a response.
I think so as well, and some of the torchbearers thought it was quite overwhelming to begin with, but I think they're really enjoying it, really reflecting what a superb day and superb honour it is to carry the flame and really get an understanding about it as well. But yes, like you said, there's been lots of people around, whether it's on the water for the gigs, through to the Finn sailors here, through to the schools and the public and everyone that's helping and all the people that have helped to plan this. I must say a big thank you to them, because it's a superb effort and it's brilliant. There's lots going on throughout the day as well, and it's just a great atmosphere, so I'm really, really pleased.
And we've had a few delays en route, but that, I'm told, so far is because of the sheer number of people turning out, so I guess that's a nice problem to have.
Exactly, and there was an adjustment break planned in for that very reason, just after Custom House Quay, in fact, just on the car park nearby. And the reason for that is a case if they are behind, they can just scrub that or go make it much more reduced and then go straight on and catch up time. So yes, it's just been great. The weather, of course, helps, but there's so many people that come out, and it is overwhelming. It's brilliant, though. It's a great day and a great event, really.
Richard, lovely to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Richard Gates, a very happy man there after helping to be, after being such a key planner behind all of this. I have to say, from what we've seen so far, it does look like it's gone very well indeed here in Falmouth, and you got that real sense from Claire, the torchbearer, didn't you, of just how excited she was. And whatever your views about the Olympics, you do pick up on that certainly wherever we've moved in Cornwall over the last few days, there has been a real air of excitement. Plenty to go, though. It is only day one. There's a very long way to go. But LOCOG will be watching certainly what we've seen so far here today in Cornwall, and surely we'll be very happy indeed. We'll be having a little more from here in Falmouth, because lots of festivities here, a little more after the top of the hour, and as I say, later in the day in Plymouth. But we keep talking about this glorious weather. Let's get a weather update right now. All the latest comes from Philip Avery. Phil.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. I'm smiling away, not just because it's glorious in Cornwall at the moment, but the thought of all the food that Jane could be eating through the afternoon. Great pasties, fish and chips, saffron cakes as well. And to try and lift the mood as well, a little bit brighter for many of us across the country during the course of the afternoon. However, you can see that we do have a bit of a problem with a fair amount of cloud across the central swathe of the British Isles. This has been producing a little bit of rain through the morning close by to the northeastern coast, where I'm afraid I can do little to lift your spirits. I know that the temperature is about 6 degrees out on the coast. It's 7 or 8 degrees quite widely across that region. So really you have to look to north and south of that central swathe to be finding the very best of the sunshine. 1 or 2 showers may develop across the south during the course of the afternoon. I suspect if you see those, that will be the exception to a dry rule. Once we get a little bit further north through the heart of Wales, up into the North Midlands towards the northeast of England, a lot of cloud around. Some of that is definitely going to stick for a good part of the afternoon. Further north than that, there's a little bit of sunshine to be had. Central belt of Scotland and all points north, as indeed you saw on the recent satellite picture, all of which is good news for much of Edinburgh, which is going to go down the M8 towards Hampden. A small matter of a local derby there to decide the Scottish Cup, and we'll see how time progresses with that one as to the outcome. And then talking of sort of local derbies, Leinster versus Ulster. Could it be 3 in 4 for Leinster? We will find out. The coverage is right there for you on 5. And then getting a little bit more exotic, Pew, what a scorcher there. A very warm evening for Bayern Munich versus Chelsea to decide the Champions League. So let's come back to these shores and see how things develop overnight. Bit of a mixture, in fact. The clouds sufficiently thick across the south. There to be 1 or 2 showery bursts of rain, no doubt about it. Further north, the skies will be pretty clear, and there may even be a touch of frost in 1 or 2 places, so those temperatures really dip away underneath those skies. And then on into Sunday, a lot of us will stay dry. You will notice that there is the odd speckling of something here, largely to the south of the Thames Valley. A little bit of uncertainty about exactly what's going to go on here through the course of the day, but the long and the short of it is, if the sun comes out, 17 degrees could well be yours. If it doesn't and you're stuck close by to the east coast again, it'll be 8 or 9 degrees. Now next week for many of us, much warmer with some sunshine, but I'm afraid the North Sea coast will have a torrid time of it with a ha or a fret, just depending what you call it. That's the way it's looking just at the moment. More details, of course, can be found right there. See you later.
This is BBC News. The headlines at midday. 3 men have been charged with terror offences in Northern Ireland, including conspiring to set off an explosion. The Chinese dissident whose stay at a US embassy sparked a diplomatic crisis is set to fly to America. 2 people have died and 6 others have been injured in an explosion outside a school in southern Italy. World leaders gather for the G8 summit with the crisis in the Eurozone set to dominate the talks.
I'm Jane Hill in Falmouth in Cornwall. The Olympic torch has just passed through here, a very successful event. The sun shone and hundreds of people cheered as the torch came through this Cornish town. More from here later.
And Chelsea prepare for a showdown with Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. Hello, good afternoon. Before I bring you our main story, we have some breaking news coming from Belfast, and we're hearing that a young woman has been shot dead in Balachi and another has been seriously injured. It happened at a house in Williams Court this morning.